Fuck cheers. It up.
And let's get it.
Let's go.
Welcome everyone to the third Always Dale House podcast. There's actually secretly like 40 Dale House them, but like published is going to be the third.
It takes us 5 podcasts to do one.
That's about it. We have to filter out all the good stuff and then give you the worst.
30 hours of content down to a spare 26 minutes.
We slave away for you.
Yeah.
Also, if you want to pay us for the unreleased, the unreleased podcast
unreleased footage.
What's the ID, bro?
OnlyFans?
That's where you can find us next. Yeah. But to start us off, we can start off with some new releases. You want to start off with?
Hell yes. Me?
Yeah,
okay.
Let's go away. You do one, I'll do one,
okay.
Until we run out of new releases.
This isn't an actual release, but House of Panda did an LRAD mix, Knife Party mix.
Yes.
And it is fucking amazing. Holy shit. Like, take an old song, a 7-year-old song, a drum and bass tune, and just completely reworked it and made it way more upbeat than it already is, and fucking fun as hell and great to dance to. So
fuck yeah.
Shout out for fucking House of Panda for getting that sample. That is sick.
It sounds amazing. I'm not really familiar with Knife Party in that background. I heard the track and I thought it was really bumping and like original and like super dancey and like pretty intense.
Rob Swire is an OG and like one of my favorite.
And he's a member of Knife Party? He is
Knife Party.
He is the one person in Knife Party. Does he have other aliases?
Might be another guy. So yeah, the Pendulum. So cool.
I
think it's him and another guy. My memory is terrible in this. But he's like the main creator behind the project.
Nice.
Pendulum as well, which is more like drum and bass as well. Both Knife Party. They were here a couple summer sounds ago and absolutely slayed.
Nice.
Like, the entire reason I went to that SOS was for him. And yeah, to have him to reach out to House of Panda is a huge deal. Like, I'm so proud.
Our little boy, there's no claim for him.
No, that's amazing that Winnipeg local.
See, because I wasn't in the wave of Knife Party. How big would you say like Knife Party was like headlining
the
biggest festivals and stuff?
Like, I'd say around like 2011 to 2013 era. They were like the biggest deal in terms of like drum and bass.
Cool.
Or at least to me. I don't know. My perspective is going to be biased because I listen to a lot of their shit. Right?
Yeah.
And it's like just the attention to instrumentation and like it feels like they're aficionados of writing. Like their music's well thought out and crafted.
Nice.
You can tell they put a lot of work into it.
Well, I should check out some more Knife Party.
Yeah, and Pendulum too. They're both. By the way, why don't we have an intro song?
We can make it right here.
Can we make one right now?
Pop.
Welcome
to the Always
Dale
podcast live.
Us, Alex.
We'll send it to Sasha and do some work with that.
Send those samples. Send those off.
Other new releases. Talking about producers in Winnipeg. Life of Kai, Need You. I think was released a couple weeks ago. Really good track. They went more intense with the drop, and I really liked it. They had like a more kind of hard to explain, like techno-y, trancey drop. It was like really vibey, and super sick. And they got onto the Friday Crate Diggers on Spotify, which is like, to me that seems huge. And I think they're now their biggest track to date.
Congrats.
And huge congrats to Life of Kai. Well earned, and just well produced track. And then. Yeah, if you're not familiar with Friday Crate Diggers, that's my main source for like New Music Friday updates, where it's like a lot of people either release tracks on Friday or just like, and also collects tracks throughout the week that's been like released, and that's where I go for all like the worldwide source, and then to see like a Winnipeg artist on there is just huge. It's super cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
congrats on them.
So super big. Now your turn. Go.
My turn. Oh, I don't. Do I drop another House of Panda track?
Go for it. Yeah,
that heartbeat.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was great. Super like I get sundown vibes like driving around down the California coast, like Gold Coast driving with like
now to put that in perspective, it's a pretty hardcore
It is
track.
hard, but like it has
for Alex, the sundown is pretty intense.
The sundowns go hard. No, it's like a beautiful track.
I think it's a good vocal over top that does make it more chill.
Yeah, no, it's definitely fast as fucking upbeat, but it's like.
And it's not his more intense stuff.
No, he's definitely his way harder shit. This is way more low key. It's a soft panda track. A plush panda.
This is like the Drake panda. Like
Panda goes Drake.
Yeah. With that Marvin's Room panda. That's what you're listening to.
You have a track? I have a few more. But...
Locally, so Fa released not really a dance track, but like a lo-fi beat track on his alias called. Faja has an alias called Fa.
Chill beats to study to.
Yeah, like kind of vibe like that, and it has like I don't know, it's really like super chill, like unbelievably chill.
Did you study to it though? That's the real question.
Yeah, but it also has like a sample where like it's some dude. You can definitely study to it.
Dude, that's the requirement, bro.
But on top of that, the guy talks about like being present in the moment, and just like a really good audio sample.
Oh, wow.
And it's not like so he's used a lot of Alan Watts, and I think a lot of lo-fi artists have used a lot of Alan Watts in the past.
I don't think anyone's ever heard who Alan Watts is. Completely.
Oh,
really? No, I'm joking.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
I'm like, if you don't know, is he a doctor
one
or
of the
something?
most sampled like voices ever in music.
Yeah,
I think. Everyone
he talks a lot
loves to
about like
sample him.
spirituality and all these connections. A lot of people sample and put him on their tracks. And Faja does it really well on his Fa alias as well. But this is like a sample I've never heard before, so it's really good to see like a new sample. It's just like, really well done.
No, new Alan Watts deep cut.
Yeah, he's the next. He's
Alan
like
Watts has released a new shit. What the? He's coming back
bro,
from the dead.
Hologram Alan Watts on the next
Tupac, Alan Watts collabing
on the
this
next
new
live
pod track
on the next live stream.
On the next live stream, yeah,
with the holograms. But I think it has a lot of kind of wind instruments because I've seen him play like some sort of flute or something, and it sounds so sick. So yeah, definitely go check it out. It's called Time by Fa.
Deep, it's deep, man.
Any other ones you have so far?
Not local, but Don't Blink has a new song called Connection. I was talking to Josh about these guys who I don't know who they are. Every single Don't Blink song I fucking love.
Do you blink though?
Single.
Do you blink?
I can't blink. I can't blink while listening to it. I'm just like.
On the next
so
podcast,
it's too intense, man.
We'll do the Don't Blink challenge and see if you can blink.
While listening to Don't Blink. Listen to 10 hours of Don't Blink.
Try to blink to not blink. I can't do it.
You're not supposed to blink. It's impossible. No, they're great.
Well, what kind of music is it? What kind of sound?
It's like tech house, upbeat, dancey tech house.
Nice.
I'm pretty sure I discovered them from Always Dale parties because I don't know where I find artists. I just start listening to them, and I'm pretty sure they're some of my oldest house artists. So I'm pretty sure I was discovering them from your guys' parties. So credit for you guys.
Yeah, well, we'll take it.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's
don't
true.
Blink, give them some money. Send them some money, some royalties. Always Dale needs royalties here.
We accept royalties.
John Summit has a new song called Booty Sleep, which I really liked.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
That's pretty. John Summit's killing it. I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, John Summit producing really good music.
Yeah, he's coming out of nowhere.
Really good. I think the only one I would add is Runaway by Ben Bomer.
Runaway by Kanye?
Like by Kanye actually just came out
this
week for us.
14 years ago.
The internet's slow here, so we just got it today. But Runaway by Ben Bomer, it's a really good Ben Bomer track. If you know Ben Bomer, he's like very deep house.
Yeah.
Kind of slower stuff, but like
deep?
Really good. Like,
but how deep?
It's like so deep.
So deep?
I don't know if I could take it, but then I'm like, I can take it, Ben Bomer. I can. Give me more. Okay. And it has a really unique sound, and just I would definitely recommend checking it out.
Yeah. I think that's new tracks. So how are we moving to Dale updates?
Dale updates. But we need segment. Oh, we need like transition segments.
We need air horns. Why don't we have air horns?
We are accepting donations of air horns.
Yes, please.
Please drop them off at our door. Won't post the address, but just DM us. Dale updates. So one thing I want to mention, we do have our Winnipeg House Originals playlist. It's been updated with new tracks that we just mentioned.
Hell yes.
Heartbeat's on there. The other ones we talked, Need You's on there. A bunch of other, about 50 tracks from like local artists. So definitely check it. If you're wondering like, do I like the artists here?
Yeah.
Maybe not. Maybe I do. So that's a good place to go check out and be like, you know what? Support local.
Hashtag support local.
Hashtag support local.
Yeah.
Other than that, we have our Jungle Jam stream coming up next Saturday.
Jams.
So
I have my Fred Flintstone costume ready. Let's go.
Fuck yeah. I better see it. I really hope you're not joking. Go buy it on Amazon right now. See if it gets there by Saturday.
$600 on a costume for this one stream. What's the lineup?
What is the lineup?
We have.
So because of the new restrictions, we are now allowed 2 people at our house. And we chose our 2 fighters. And our 2 fighters are going to be Sasha and DJ Alok. So
amazing.
It's going to be fantastic. Just a bunch of OGs that have been like
The music is so similar, so it's perfect.
Yeah, they
Perfect
always
balance.
DJ the same, so it's gonna be a smooth transition.
And then back-to-back sets.
Yeah. I can't imagine. So if you don't know, DJ like probably known for more funky stuff and and he plays a huge range of music. But Sasha's known for like hard shit, like hard trap,
like trap,
borderline
bassy.
dubstep, like very like bassy stuff and like hard drops, very good stuff.
You're trying to scare me, I think, with his music.
Yeah. It's good. It's hype.
Trying to make me cry. I've cried at multiple sets by Sasha.
I've cried every set.
Just because how beautiful he is, honestly. That is why I cried.
That's me too. That's me too. So we love you, Sasha.
We do.
So that's gonna be a lineup, and then it's gonna be DJ Funky Penguin, myself, and if you don't know, this is DJ Funky Penguin. Myself, which is El Capitan, and then DJ Nork as well.
Yes.
So it's gonna be 5 of us going from about 8 p.m. to 12:30 to 8 a.m. 12-hour set, and it's only going to be DJ Funky Penguin. He's not allowed to leave. We're chaining him to the DJ
6-hour
booth.
set. My second set ever. It was 6 hours long. So speaking of where dance music came from,
Where's it from?
where'd it come from?
Tell me about it.
I don't know.
Should we ask house music? Should
Ask.
we interview house music? Next
Can
up
you
on the
call it- Can you call it
podcast.
house music?
What's up, house?
What's up, house?
Where are you from, though?
Where
We
you
talked
at?
about it in the
Where you
first-
at?
We talked about a little bit about the first podcast that it's from like Chicago. We talked a little bit about the death of disco,
yeah.
and how they're burning records and
So
stuff.
culturally, when disco died, dance music was moved into the underground, where you had DJs playing at clubs. They would take old disco records, disco samples, and they layer drum beats underneath it using 808s, 909s.
Mm-hmm.
These were technologies that were huge failures in the market.
Like
And then
little electronic hardware, right?
drum machines. Yeah,
Cool.
really cheap electronic machines that would reiterate or recreate drum sounds. So they would layer these drum beats underneath classic disco tracks and sell them to the new public. It's like
Yeah.
a whole new thing. This is house music.
And like play it live at the
Play it
warehouses
live
too.
in clubs because it was not on radio. Radio banished disco. Disco had a hard die, and it was only in the clubs then. And in these warehouses where they would play disco tracks, they would start to be known as house music.
Yeah, and this was like early '80s kind of era, right?
Yeah, in the early 80s. After like the disco music was being created into the early 80s, but it wasn't culturally the same. After 79, after the death of disco, it kind of had a complete free fall at that point. It wasn't being sought after the same way. So it got pushed into the underground, got pushed into the clubs, and you had artists like Jesse Saunders, the song On and On, which is credited as like the first house track, which is a sample of an old disco song, but they just recreated with drum machines. And yeah, it all moved on from there.
No, that's huge. And I think if you like listen to the On and On track, it's crazy to see how much like house music has developed.
It's evolved,
It's
right?
definitely like a very different sound. Maybe not my taste today.
Don't really dance to that. I can't really dance to that. No way.
It's a lot.
But there's just something new. So it's like
and
these are four founders of a new technology.
Exactly.
They were pushing boundaries technologically, as opposed to maybe being the most new inventive artists. They were pushing boundaries still, right? Like they're
And like on that topic, so like from a lot of this information we're getting is like just Googling or from the Pump Up the Volume documentary, which is
I've watched
really good.
multiple at this point.
Yeah.
Different documentaries.
Which other ones have you watched?
Can't recall the name off the top, but I've seen maybe 5 at this point.
Oh, sick. You should
It's
send them to
BBC
me.
ones. There's
Oh,
some really
nice.
interesting
BBC
ones.
has made some good
Some
ones.
bad ones. I watched a Studio 54 documentary, which I kind of wanted to mention. I didn't know what point, but that was one of the first like big, huge disco clubs. And it was kind of known for having a lot of celebrities partying, tons of cocaine use, people
that's in
doing
New
tons
York,
of
right?
drugs. It was in New York, right?
Cool.
It was the one everyone wanted to be at. But it was really about like image and status. What I imagine like the Coachella of like today. Just like Trump was there, you know, looking like a boss. Everyone just wanted to be seen there.
Yeah.
And it was the movement of like dance and disco and like bringing people together with dance. But it wasn't until like those really warehouse clubs and like the underground scenes of the early 80s in America, that's where those like real dance movements, the love of the music came from. And
Yeah.
from my perspective in watching those documentaries.
Yeah, I think that is a good point. I think there's a lot of places where people go for the status of being there,
Yes.
or people that go there to be like, you know,
Just
for the
wanna
fun,
dance
like for
and
the fun and
acceptance.
dance and like
the gay community, the trans community, at a time when they were completely put out of society and neglected, they found acceptance in these clubs.
Exactly.
And like that's beautiful.
And the
It's-
African American community as well. Like
Yes, yeah.
Hispanic, Black.
All these people who were just disenfranchised found safety and comfort in these clubs and a way to express themselves and feel at home. And I think that's what rave culture, disco, dance music is all about to me in terms of like the meaning behind the culture. It's like everyone to get together and express themselves in a comfortable, safe environment where we can always have fun and all lines of division fall away.
Yeah, and that's super interesting too, because it's like then coming from that background, people like start to stigmatize house music, calling it like gay in a derogatory way, and so on. So it's crazy to see how like now it's maybe come more into the mainstream. It just doesn't have that, I guess, connotation anymore. But like,
yeah, I'd say it still somewhat does. I would say less, but I think there's still a huge stigma associated with electronic dance music. And people make fun of it all the time and look down at it and say it's like caveman music or
bebop computer music.
Yeah, if it doesn't have vocals, then it's bad music, as if there was no good instrumentation, like instrumental music before dance music or before.
But I feel like the stigma is very different than like what
it's
it
definitely
is.
it's
Being,
evolved,
well, I just think back because you were talking about like in the last podcast how like they gave your dad those records as a joke, as like this is like not cool, but it's like because it was probably associated with the homosexual community that was more stigmatized than ever probably back then. So it's like that's a super
still
interesting.
has it, but I don't think it's to the same extent.
Exactly. So it's a huge tribute to all like those original communities that brought up this amazing sound that like they kind of made for themselves. And then kind of on top of that, like what the Pump Up the Volume documentary talks about, and you kind of mentioned how they took it off radio, but then like these people called the Hot Mix 5 on Chicago radio with like this big guy named Farley Jackmaster Funk, which I've heard of before, but I don't know why. They started putting kind of like housey dance music back on the radio, and I think that made big waves from my understanding. And that eventually kind of ended up being like people producing
their own tracks. Marshall Jefferson, the first known solo produced house track is "Move Your Body" by Marshall Jefferson.
Yeah,
which I'm pretty sure everyone in house knows.
Yeah, move your body.
Move your body. Music.
Move your body.
Yeah,
I think we got an intro. I think we got
the new intro. Just us singing this.
Move your body.
Don't copyright claim us. Please don't take this down.
Don't destroy us. And like what we were talking about before is the big difference, I guess, between like that On and On song from 1984 by Jesse Saunders and the Move Your Body, I think it was 1986, was that Move Your Body was the first to not really use any disco samples, just fully produced itself, right?
Yeah,
like the On and On was like
that was
disco
the first solo
tracks.
Produced house music, house song ever,
which is like monumental.
Yeah, which is where the entire genre has come from now, and now it's seen completely separately from disco music, disco dance music as its own genre now.
Exactly, and now we just move our body.
Yeah, move your body.
House.
Speaking of that, I think this is a great place to move on into what got you into dance music. What is dance music for you? What got you dancing? What got you moving?
Dancing?
That's what it's all about.
Well, I saw Alex shuffle, and then that's when the first time like maybe I should try this thing called dancing.
I can try that. This guy looks like an idiot. It can't be that hard.
No, I admired it. Like I did. So I practiced it in my room every single night. Try to get the moves right. A little shuffle.
I've seen your robot. Hey.
You were asked, so what got me into dance
music? Yeah. Where was your start? Well,
it all started when I was 8, and
yeah.
I think it's hard to pinpoint, but like thinking back at like what music I was into when I was younger, everything from like Coldplay to like Guns N' Roses was like that was kind of my introduction to music when I was like really young, like 10, 12. And then kind of transitioned to some rap, I think, a little bit. But I still kept a lot of like classical. But then I think I wasn't super into music in a lot of ways.
That's right.
But thinking back, actually one of the first electronic artists that I started listening to was more for studying, and it was called XXYYXX, or like, what's it?
Oh.
People call him Zizzy. Anyways.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, he makes
like the Jamie XX guy, the XX.
No. It's
Not
literally
the XX?
it's called. His name is XXYYXX. Super weird name.
I don't know him.
I'll play him after. He's actually really good. And really weird. So it's a really weird entrance into kind of electronic music.
Cool.
But. And I think it's not pronounced XXYYXX,
Yeah.
but it's Zizzy or something. I don't know. Super cool. And he's even played at Shambhala and stuff before I even know what Shambhala was. But yeah, so I think that was got me into like more electronic music. And then also like I was attending Folk Fest a lot, and Folk Fest isn't really known for their dance music, but they have a stage called Big Blue Stem.
Yes.
And then they would play a lot of like super funky, a lot of times like super dancey stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always liked
it.
dancing growing up. I think it's my Latino background of just like dancing's just part of the culture there. Like you go to a club in Argentina and everyone's
dance.
like actually all the guys are dancing.
Wait, people
like, you know,
dance
they're
at
good at
dance
it.
clubs?
It's crazy.
Not in Winnipeg.
And everyone's like quite good at it, so it's like, oh shit. So I was like, I think I've always found like myself pretty like natural with dancing. So I think
sick.
I've been attracted to dance music, and then into like more housey music. I think just slowly.
Electronic music. Like what was your first wave and
I
friends
think,
that you just?
You know what? I think so. I started clubbing when I was 18. And that got me into like the more mainstream dance music that was being played, this radio stuff, like the stuff they were playing at 441, District Stop, all the clubs here in Winnipeg. And then eventually, this is a funny story. My buddy Chris met someone in his architecture class, and they literally met, like they joke about it, I think. Like they were just, one of them was talking about house music, and the other one was like, EDM? EDM? They're like, yeah, EDM? like rose back. Yeah. You play EDM? You like EDM? You like EDM? And I think Chris was one of the first people that got me more into like electronic music a little bit. And then he met Selena in his architecture class. We made a project together. And then after, he's like, yeah, she's going to some rave at like Planet, which is like no more anymore in Winnipeg. And we went to the club, and then we're like, oh, a rave? That sounds cool. I've always wanted to go to a rave. Yeah. And I went to that after going to the club. And it was literally, I think it was a restaurant during the day, and they push all the tables at night, and it's an after hours, like that's 2 to 4. So like cool. Real OG. Yeah. And then I've met like just a bunch of great people, a really good crew from that. And then that's them and Chris, and like that became like how I got into like electronic dance music and really got into the scene. And eventually we all went to Shambhala, and like that was amazing, incredible. So
hell yeah.
I think that's what my first steps into it. And then they kind of evolved into like Always Dale and like throwing parties for ourselves and like really going
Josh,
that direction.
Changed your life forever.
It's never been the same. It was a dark journey until I met Josh in HR class. DJ Nork. So yeah, I think that's kind of my journey into it. And I think it's always with the people that you meet that usually kind of introduce it to you. I don't know how Chris kind of got into it, but I think that was kind of my first introduction to it, and just always loving dancing. And I always love kind of like underground stuff, like going to raves and stuff. Like that just got me going. I'm like, oh, this is like small out in the country, or just like things that other people don't go to. I'm like, yes, I want to go to that.
Exclusivity.
Yeah, it's not even exclusive. It's just like
community to me.
The weirdness of like, I want to go somewhere where other people aren't gonna go because it's just so weird.
I definitely think like the small communal aspect of raves to me, like the fact that we just function so much better as a species in like small groups. Yeah, like, people are so much nicer in small groups, and you could say that like
that is true.
You lose part of the rave culture when you go to the bigger festivals. From my experience,
interesting.
Like the parts I really love and the ideals of the culture that I love. Besides, I just love to dance. I mean, that's like that is the main aspect of it. But the things that I really look for in the dance culture definitely are lost in the larger scale, like EDCs. Yeah,
that makes sense. I think that happens a lot, especially with like large crowds. I find people start. I think in environments where people are too crowded, I think that starts getting bad energy in general.
Oh, for sure.
But yeah, and it's funny to mention how like, I guess we were just talking about it, but we didn't mention it yet. Like in the UK, they used to do like farm parties and stuff, and that's something we want to touch on maybe another podcast. But like in the birth of like house, music and so on. People were doing
For-
farm
with
parties.
the festival culture. Yeah.
Exactly. And then now it's still like going on. Like people are still throwing farm parties,
Yeah.
especially during like when
That's-
COVID was shutting down all the clubs, but like it wasn't popular. We had like no cases in Winnipeg. Like people were doing like farm stuff and like even like Bring Your Love's doing farm stuff and just
Yeah.
like it's funny how like that just like reigns true of like the culture of like
We'll find a way to adapt.
Exactly, you DIY it and like you're gonna go back to just going to a field and like setting up some like DJs and the lights and just going at it, you know?
This is the basic bare fundamentals.
Exactly.
Music and good people, and it's all I need.
Yeah, and I would love to ask you, what is your introduction into like dance and house music and all that?
I'd say similar to you in terms of like dance music. It was something I've always done. I was always the kid who wanted to get up and dance at socials. I've always loved dancing. Disco music as a kid. Daft Punk in like grade 8 was like the first start into
cool.
like electronic dance music. It was like the disco shit I loved as a kid. You had this huge disco renaissance, Jamiroquai, yeah. It wasn't until high school I got into like dubstep, and that really it was my first initial impression into like later into electronic dance music. You can't even call that dance anymore, but then it was a year's hiatus where I completely stepped away.
Like Skrillex and stuff.
Skrillex. It was really basic. My friends had Skrillex, and I was like, I listened to a bit of UK dubstep at the time, and I really got into that. But then my girlfriend at the time hated dubstep, so I just stopped listening to electronic music for like years. And then it wasn't.
I'm not gonna lie, I was one of the people that would just like not. I would kind of hate on the people who listen to dubstep. Like, gross.
People hated dubstep.
It sounds like gross electronic sounds. Why would you like this?
Yes, I remember that was my entry point. It was like Daft Punk, and then it wasn't until like Skrillex. It was just like a weird transition. It was like they weren't related whatsoever.
I wish I wasn't so hateful towards those people.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Well, I understand it's out there. It's not exactly accessible music.
Yeah.
But I think there's some genius artistry to it, like good composition related to like to jazz or something. Or like it takes an ear for it to do it well. It's a lot of bad dubstep.
If you listen to dubstep, it kind of sounds like jazz. Like a nice smooth.
Probably
jazz.
a terrible comparison. But I'm trying to relate just
but I know it's
an accessibility of the music and how bad a lot of it is. There's a lot of bad jazz music. I love jazz, but there's some really bad stuff. It takes good like ear for music to make it well.
I think there's very few dubstep drops I like, but there are some that I do like that are like very dubstep-y.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of it just played out and kind of sounds similar, and it just sounds too much almost. It's just overwhelming.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest kind of barrier that I find. Dubstep is like overwhelming for a lot of people.
It is. And there's people that do it better. At this point, I don't really think it's in fashion anymore. Definitely has fallen to the side. House music seems like the big next trend. I didn't get into house music till I think when I went to my first rave was Summer of Sound.
Oh, that was your first rave?
It was like when I was
Lit.
it was 2016, and then that's how I fell in love with rave culture, and I fell in love. There wasn't even that many artists at the time that like I was that huge a fan of. I just loved the community, and I found like some of the artists I danced like crazy to. I was like, oh, this is an opportunity to dance again. I hadn't danced since I was a kid. Cool. I loved it. And then like the next year I went to EDC. And then from there I never.
You went balls deep.
I did
nothing?
one Summer of Sound, and I was like, I need like to do this intense. Like give me EDC, and I went into EDC blind almost with very little knowledge of any electronic dance music.
How did you get introduced to Summer of Sound? Was it like a friend that was going?
Friends, yeah, just peripherally. Friends had heard about. I'd heard about it. Saw pictures of my other friends who'd gone years before. It looked insane. It just looked like in terms of quality of production for your money, it seemed like an obvious must go.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
think it's crazy. I think Summer of Sound has expanded like the EDM. I remember even in high school where people were first talking about like Summer of Sound, and I think it's just it's kind of broadened the scope in Winnipeg of like who listens to EDM music.
Yes,
like people like I think introduced a lot more people into that kind of the culture and the EDM
definitely.
music. Shout out to Stephen Hu. I think he brought. I think the story is maybe we'll have him on the podcast. I think he was kind of part of the people that brought Summer Sound here.
Yeah, well, like run it and organize it.
That run it and organize it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that it brings a lot of non EDM people and a lot of other people into the culture and to listen to the music. And I think it's obvious when you go there, most people don't listen to electronic dance music.
Yeah.
Like I went to the last one I went to, it's like when there was heavy dubstep playing, like 90% of the crowd was just in a standstill. Like you can't get a mosh pit. A mosh pit is just not happening.
That's why you book Chainsmokers every year. You'll
That
never go wrong.
That was actually my first summer sound was the Chainsmokers.
Was it?
So I guess
Oh
that was
my God.
2017.
So it was the first house track ever, right?
It was the first, for me, it was the first house track ever. And yeah, and then I just fell in love with dancing, and EDC was incredible, and just I was amazed. And I met friends there. I went completely alone, so I met friends that I camped out with. Shout out Zayda, Hector, and David. Hell yeah.
Shout out Hector.
Hector.
What's up?
He's sexy.
That's a good name.
And yeah, and it's just lifelong friends now, and a community that I don't ever see myself leaving.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Have you been back to EDC since?
Yeah, I went the year after in 2019.
Nice.
Yeah, and then
That's so interesting. I feel like we had different trajectories because you went like big and then now to small, and I feel like I went to because my
I
first,
did it complete backwards.
I was like going small raves, and then I remember the first like farm rave I went to was like I was at like D Stop and like, oh, there's a farm rave after, and then we like drove out for an hour, and I was just like mesmerized by the fact that like they set up 2 stages at someone's farm or something.
Wow.
I'm just like the fact that like people got together to DIY this for free for people to camp out. I'm like that's what I loved about it. And like some of the music I didn't like, but I didn't care because I was like, this is so sick that you guys did it anyways. Like
hell yeah.
amazing. The 2 stages, like dope. So I think that was like that's the DIY-ness and like just the culture that really brought me in, and then slowly scaled up to like going to Shambhala and like bigger events, and I still haven't gone to anything.
Well,
Been to Do Only Daddy Know, but like maybe EDC or someone.
Yeah, so speaking of like festivals,
Oh, great transition.
Ultra was just officially canceled for 2021. So.
I want a sound effect. Wow, wow, wow.
Wow, wow.
They were so I remember because I was in Paris last year when the coronavirus kind of hit. Ultra was the first to cancel out of like all the festivals. Partly because I think Miami hates Ultra. Is this Ultra Miami, I'm guessing?
Yeah, the original Ultra is Miami. I think it's the one that canceled.
Yeah. That was the first one to cancel, but I think Miami hates Ultra. So I think
everyone hates Ultra.
I don't know if that's true, but... And I know like the city of Miami hates Ultra, and like the difference between that and like Vegas, where like Vegas loves EDC.
Yeah, for sure.
So...
Embrace your degenerate side, Miami. We know what's going on in Florida.
Just a bunch of like degenerates flying into your city and just destroying it. Yeah, I'm sure they love that.
You live with a bunch of degenerates already.
I think DJ Illick has a really good story of an Ultra Miami, and I want to bring him on to talk about it.
Yeah, I would love to hear.
It may have evolved him getting arrested, or not. I don't know.
That's how you do Miami. It's the only way to do Ultra, bro. That's one of the steps in the Ultra checklist.
That's why the city hates Ultra.
Yeah, I can
keep
see
it alive.
That.
But
tourism
on aspects that other festivals are getting canceled, like Don't Let Daddy Know, which I went to last year, which probably should have been canceled. Which is a festival within Amsterdam. They also have other ones. I think they do one in Spain and like Taiwan.
Yeah.
Pretty big festival. They had like Oliver Heldens, Dimitri Vegas, Light Mike, like big names on it, and just really good production. But they've announced that they're canceling. I think like that one, they're not going to have it till next 2022. Like they're not going to even try to do it later in the year or anything.
Nothing all year.
So I think we'll see. I don't know. Do you think there's going to be more festivals that are later in the summer? Or do you think they're going to go on?
I think it's likely that smaller scale festivals might pass by. Something like a Shambhala may get allowed or might go ahead with it. But I'd see like EDC, I just don't see it happening. Big scale festivals like that, I just don't see them taking the risk associated.
That's interesting. I think the only ones that are going to go through personally is the ones outside of like Canada and European countries and the US. Like the ones in Portugal and Mexico where like I think they still want tourists. Like you're seeing Mexico and like Tulum, they're still taking a bunch of tourists.
Yeah.
They're not like shutting their borders because a lot of their economy depends on tourism.
They can't live without that money.
Yeah, I think they're going to still be inclined to like, let those festivals happen. So I think those potentially are going to still be alive. But I don't know. I don't think Shambhala is going to happen because I don't think the vaccine's going to be rolled out enough to them to justify a 30,000 person festival.
No, but I'd say smaller scale festivals, like ones like Bring Your Love in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
Really grassroots ones.
Oh, Emotion
Could
too. I've
definitely
never
happen.
been to it, but
I
I've heard
haven't
good
either.
stuff.
I've heard amazing things.
And I think I
This
got to
year,
meet some
hopefully.
of the organizers, so they were really cool. So
Were they emotional?
they were so emotional. They made me emotional.
They made you emotional?
Yeah.
Oh my
Shout out
God.
Sean.
Oh my God.
Shout out Emotion. Yeah. So like,
let's cry together.
either way, we're like, well, unless if it's really bad. Either way, if cases are down, it's like somewhat safe. I think we're finding ways to
We
like
can have a summer.
we'll have a
new
summer.
summer of
Last
love?
summer, just I think because of the people we know or the people I know too, it's just that we were able to like go to really cool small events.
Yeah.
When there was like low case count and they were allowed. So hopefully that at least that happens this year,
Yes.
this summer. I would be okay with that, but I really would love to throw big events this summer.
Hell
Through
yeah.
Alwaysdale.
Mass spreader events. Let's go.
Mass spreader events.
Let's get on the
COVID
news.
tribute night. Wave 2 party.
It's like a whole Winnipeg in
Honestly, I
one
think it could be a
building.
wave 3 party at this point.
Wave 6? How many waves can we get here? Have a never-ending wave.
Just ride the waves, man. Just ride the waves of the
Yeah,
ocean.
bruh.
Were there any other topics you want to cover? The cancellations or
No. I want to talk about your hair.
what about it? It needs a haircut.
Yeah.
They're 25% capacity, so we can go.
Time to get Santi's haircut.
Someone
For
want
the
to
sake
go
of the
fund
stream.
me. Go
For our
fund
viewers.
me.
For our viewers, please.
You don't have to look at this anymore. We'll shave it all live on stream. How about that?
Yes, let's get you bald on stream.
Maybe
you
not
will
bald.
put your hair onto my
I
head.
take it all back. I don't want to look like It's the last thing I want to do is look like Alex. God damn.
Yeah, me neither. Me neither.
I think I couldn't pull off the bald look. I also have weird bumps in my head. It'll be all very strange. I need to just not be lazy and get a haircut. What's your plan with your facial hair?
It's to look as much like a child molester as possible.
And how's
So
that
you got
going
weird
so
looks
far?
while walking through school. That's my hair plan.
You just don't want to be accepted into society.
Yeah.
That's
No, this was because I couldn't wear a mask anymore with the beard, and it was driving me nuts. So I just shaved it all off, and I was like, you know what? Let me grow a disgusting mustache.
I think it goes good with your funky kind of disco-y look. With your funky penguin vibes.
Yeah, I'm definitely embracing the disco stash, bringing that back.
100%. I'm excited to see you this Saturday at the Jungle Jam.
excited. Jungle
And
Jam.
by jam, we mean like the jam you put on toast.
I will be
we're gonna
covered
bring
in
out-
jam.
We're going to be covering ourselves in jam. We're going to have jam on stream. It's BYOJ. Bring your own jam.
Jamming.
We're going to be definitely jamming. Yeah, I think that's a good topic.
Dope.
Good wrap up.
That's good.
On to the next one.
Cheers.
Empty glasses. Cheers.